What shall we talk about this morning? Anything?
Sir, I was wondering if we could discuss learning and leisure.
Learning?
Learning and leisure.
Leisure. Shall we begin with that and go into something else which is... Let's begin with that. Why do you want to learn? Why does anybody want to learn about anything? It's a discussion. And as we go along, we'll go into other matters, but what is this urge to learn? And why is it so important in one's life? In ancient India, if I remember rightly, knowledge was tremendously important. And apparently, in modern world, it's becoming more and more difficult, and the urge to learn is getting less and less. And why is it that human beings give such importance to learning? Is it to know the world about us, nature, the heavens, the stars, the various elements, to learn about the moon, the distance, whether the universe is expanding or contracting, and so on and on and on. Apparently, we are learning a great deal about things outside of us. How to live under the sea, go to the moon, and the immense advancement in technology, and so on. All learning about things around us, the world around us. And also learning about our relationships with society and with ourselves. Would you agree to, would you say that is part of our learning?
Isn't part of it also simply an innocent exploration? That it's fun to learn about things?
Yes, about unknown things. About the known, observable things, and also learn about unknown things. What happens after death? Whether there is birth after death, what is it? Life after death, and so on. Whether one can read other people's thoughts, and before we read other people's thoughts, we don't know how to read our own thoughts. Right? We want to learn about what other people think and so on. And also about occultism, things that are hidden. Levitation. And so on and on. All the hidden powers of man. Right? And learn about chemistry, mathematics, history, geography, biology, physics, and so on. And there is very little attempt, as far as I can see, and I may be mistaken, very little knowledge about oneself, learning about oneself. Would you say that?
But, why should someone want to learn about themselves?
Why do you want to learn about outward things?
For security.
Is it because one has to live with the environment, and the more you know about it, the better you can live? So you study, learn about the external environmental world, hoping thereby to conquer the world around us and live better.
So,
Live.
but in that, the converse also applies, that if you learn about the self, then you have to live with the self.
Yes, therefore, that's what I'm saying. Why do we give so much importance to things outside of us? And we see why we do it. And why don't we also give importance to the learning, to learn about ourselves? You understand my question? Why? Why this neglect, indifference about oneself, the complexities of oneself, and only learn about the outer existence? And the more we give importance to the understanding of the outer world, the more shallow apparently we become. And when there is any great trouble in our lives, those who are studying only the outer have a dreadful time. I don't know if you have noticed it. Would you say that?
Yes.
That is, the people who are worldly in the sense which we are using. Worldly means concern with outward things. Extrovert, as it used to be called. And those people, when there is some catastrophe in their personal life, they apparently goes to pieces. Take to drink, various forms of disease, all the rest of it. And why do we neglect something which is equally important as the outer, to learn about ourselves? Does it mean the outer is different from the inner? You understand my question?
Well, don't we assume that we already know the inner?
Do we know ourselves? We may assume a lot of things. I may assume I know how to go to the moon, but that assumption has little validity, little value. But I'm asking, is the outer different from our inner life, inner attitudes, anxieties, fears, pleasures, all the inward movement? Why do we differentiate and divide the outer and the inner? You understand my question? No? You don't understand my question? We are learning a great deal about the outward world and its facts, aren't we? About nature, about, the whole thing. And is the inner world in ourselves, our complexities, our fears, all that was going on within the skin, as it were, why is there this division? The outer, right, and the inner.
You mean that we don't look at the inner in the same way?
No, I'm asking, no, I'm not saying why. I'm asking you, why is there this division, the outer and the inner? Is it easier, more profitable to know the outside world, the world about us. It's more profitable, more convenient, more observable. You can get facts and all the rest of it. But it's much more difficult to go inwardly, to find out. So, as that is being very complex, much more difficult, we said, don't bother, let's go to the other. Is that why we divided?
Perhaps we've been taught not to touch that, say, leave it alone.
Huh?
Perhaps we've been taught not to look at that at all. You know, leave it
But
alone, don't investigate.
You may have been taught to look at the other, but why haven't you also been taught to look inwardly?
Might be dangerous.
Dangerous in what way?
It might disturb things, you know, upset things.
It might be?
It might upset things, you know.
Will
you
it?
know what might happen.
Will it?
But when we look at the outer, Krishnaji, we're not really concerned deeply with learning about the outer either. We're only concerned with the superficial in the outer.
So could we put the question differently? What is it that most of us, young and old, what is it that we want? Not temporary gratification, temporary, I want some clothes, this or that. What is it that we want deeply, all of us? Comfort of the outer world? Do you understand my question? To live comfortably, to have money, to have power, to have position, to travel, have any amount of pleasure, sex, all that outer? Is that what we want? And therefore give tremendous importance to that, because that's what we want. You understand my question? Is that why we give importance to the outer things? Because we want power. Power over others, the power that gives one certain dominance, pleasure, authority, having a great deal of power. Or even little power over somebody. May have power over your wife or and so on. Is that why we give importance, lay such emphasis about learning of the outer world?
But we could also be interested in why do we want power?
No, not that's my. Then you are inquiring.
Yes, why not?
Moment you ask, why do I want power? You're already inquiring in oneself. But nobody asked that question. Why do I?
So
These
not?
people who have power, like the ministers and governors and the totalitarian Politburo, the dictatorships, they never ask, why do I want power? They see power is so enjoyable. So you have money, position, trumpets, guns go off, all the rest of it. The moment they ask, why do I want power, then they begin to inquire into something in themselves. And those who are dictators, who are rulers and all the rest of it, never say, why do I want power? They enjoy that which they have. That's all that matters to them. So I'm asking again, why do we divide these two, the inner and the outer? The outer one can see one wants power, position, money, freedom to travel, to express oneself. If you have a talent to write a book or poem or sculpture and all the rest of it, outer. And do we want want, in the deeper sense of that word, desire, delve deeply into our souls. You understand my question? Why? Do we want to learn about ourselves? You know, you spend how many years in college, from school, from the age of 5 or 7 you start. You go through college, school, college and university, 20 years or 25 years, right? Learning about outward things. And you never even give an hour, right, about to learn about yourself. See the imbalance of the two, you follow? 25 years to learn about the external things, about the universe, the world you live, biology, history, mathematics, and so on. 25 or 20 years. And not a day about yourself. Isn't it very odd? So, you understand, it's an imbalance, it's not balanced. Right? Now, do you want to learn about yourself? Or you're so caught up in the outer, the immediate pleasure, the immediate sex, the immediate gratification, that you're satisfied with that. And how will you learn about yourself? Who will teach you about yourself? You follow? You can learn mathematics from another. You have books about mathematics, modern mathematics, the new mathematics, the old mathematics. You can read enormously about mathematics and learn a great deal about mathematics. But who will teach you about yourself? Please.
It is not obvious that there is anything to learn about oneself.
Beg pardon?
It is not obvious that there is anything to learn about oneself. One thinks one means well and...
I can't quite make out because I can't make out, sorry.
That there is anything to be learnt about ourselves.
Is there anything to be learnt about yourself? Then why are all the psychologists, the analysts, all writing volumes and volumes and volumes about yourself? You understand my... So when one sees this imbalance, this lack of balance, which is the tremendous exaggeration and the inquiry and the pursuit of the external, and very, very whispering, hesitating, anxious inquiry into oneself, it must lead to this great disharmony. So just let me finish. So, do you want to learn about yourself? And give equal importance.
Krishnaji, even when we try to learn about ourselves, we tend to look at the image of ourselves rather than...
Wait, we'll find out what it means to learn about yourself. We'll find out. But you must give time to it. As you give time to learning mathematics, you must give also time to the inquiry. Will you? If you give time to learn about yourself, who will help you who will teach you? You understand my question? Mathematics is a professor, there is a teacher, he has studied, gone into it, spent years, PhD, MA, whatever it is. And who will teach you about yourself? Can another teach you? If he does, what happens? He is teaching from what he has learned about himself from books. Right?
No, not necessarily.
Wait, not necessarily. That means he has spent not only time learning from books about himself, from analysts, psychologists, and so on, and he has little experience of his own, little bit, about himself. So he is translating from or informing you what other people have said about yourself, and his own small inquiry into himself. Right? So, are you learning about yourself from others? You understand? Or can you learn about yourself independent, totally from others? You know, this leads, if you follow it very deeply, what is a religious life? Right? I may be jumping, I don't think I am, because it is tied to that. One may not see the link, the thread from the to the religious life, from the inquiry into oneself and spending time and thereby discovering for oneself, is there a religious life at all? Do you understand? First of all, I want to learn about myself, not through others, not through Freud, Jung, and all the rest of those people, but I want to learn about myself.
But won't you be thankful for hints? Won't you be thankful for hints?
They may give hints to me. Yeah, right. But their hints also will be colored by their own, right? Yeah. By their own prejudices, by their own knowledge, by their own learning. So, can we reject what others have said about me, about you, and being free of their knowledge, inquire into ourselves?
So, but there might lie the difference which we make between learning about the outside world and learning about the inside. Where when we learn about the outside, we're always listening to what other people have to say about.
That's a different matter.
Not always, though.
Not always. But finish it. That's a different matter. There you're acquiring knowledge. People are adding all the time more and more and more. Correcting, modifying, changing, but always adding.
Sir, in the outer, there's what is called original research.
Yes, original research.
It seems.
Yes, I know.
Seems to me that maybe you're suggesting that that each individual needs to do original research on the inner.
I understand that, but will you research into yourself? Original research. Is that very difficult?
In a way.
Why?
Because usually when you do some research in something, then you are the subject that is researching into
so you
the
have
object.
to find out, you have to learn how to research into yourself. You have to learn about it.
Right.
You can't say, well, I'll research.
Of course. You see, it's different because you are the subject and the object at the same time.
Look, we're going to find out. Don't make difficulties before we have started. My first inquiry is, will you spend time, energy, interest, as you do in mathematics, history, whatever you are interested in, outwardly. Will you spend a great deal of time in this? And also, it may need no time at all. There are both things involved. After all, the essence of religion is the abandonment of the self.
Krishnaji, what do you mean by the religious life?
I said so, Mr. I said so, the abandonment of the self. That is the very nature and the structure of religion, in which the self, the me, is totally non-existent. Therefore, I say to myself, I'll spend time, energy, interest in finding out, learning about myself. If I want to find out what is beyond the abandonment of the self, what is a truly religious life. If you want to find out, I'm not saying you should. That's why I said, what is it you want? Whether grown up or students here, what is it we're all wanting, craving, longing? I know if you're a student here, or any kind of student, you want immediate and desire is to pass exams, the pressure of exams. And say, for goodness sake, I wish I get through that. Or if you're very young and so on, you want pleasure. Or little adolescent sex and so on. So the wanting, the desire changes its object, right? As you grow. When you are young, you may want to be a dancer or whatever it is. If you have talent, you want to be a musician. And as you grow older, you might find a greater talent. So the object of your desire changes all the time as you go along. Unless you have some outstanding quality or gift that gives you a certain definite line to pursue. And they have their own danger. Because then the instrument or the marble becomes more important than their own life. So, can one learn about oneself? And do you want to spend time on it? As you spend years on learning about the external world, won't you give a day, a month, a week to learn about yourself? So you see the monks all over the world who say, we will abandon the world and devote themselves to God or to Jesus or to Buddha or whatever it is, thereby hoping to deny the self. You understand what I'm saying? You're following all this? But that denial of the self is really not a denial at all, but is the self is identifying itself with something which it thinks is greater. I don't know if you follow this. Do you? I don't know if you're interested in all this, are you? We can talk about something else if you're not interested. We are not captive audience. So, the monks have said, probably deeply, that understanding oneself is such a complex, unnecessary thing. But if you give yourself over to Jesus, to Christ, to Buddha, this or that, you forget yourself. You first see what the so-called religious people have done in the world. Don't say, oh, that's nonsense. See what they have done. They don't marry, they lead a celibate life, they've taken vows of humility, chastity, and all that kind of thing. And give themselves over to an idea, to an image, to a concept, and thereby hoping to forget themselves entirely. I believe I was told once, I've forgotten by who, somebody who seemed to know symbols and their meaning, that the cross originally meant wipe out the eye. You understand? Now, to understand oneself is equally important as to understand the world. Then if you understand yourself, you can live harmoniously with the world. But if you don't understand yourself, you haven't learned about yourself, there is always battle between the inner and the outer.
So it's not clear, if I give myself to Buddha or Christ or somebody and forget myself, that I'm not going to live in harmony. I mean, I know that there are many examples throughout the world where religion has caused destruction and war and many things like that.
Misery.
Right. But there are examples which don't necessarily refute the possibility.
I'm questioning whether when you identify yourself with a Buddha, with a Christ, with a whatever it is, are you really denying wiping away the self? Or you are merely transferring the self to that image?
Yes, it seems that when that happens, there's no learning taking place.
No, that's because they say learning about yourself is useless, it's too complex, it's not worth it. But whereas if you give yourself over, abandon yourself to the love of Jesus or Christ or Buddha, whatever it is, then you have forgotten yourself. Is that so?
No.
I mean, you and I may say no, but the vast majority of monks throughout the world, so-called religious people, say that's the only way to do it.
Well, isn't the essential thing that there needs to be learning about it, and not just a
Leave that.
rejection?
Leave that for the moment. Do you want to learn about yourself, any of you? Either the old or the young? Don't play with it. Because it may be the most dangerous thing to learn about yourself. Don't say it may upset your apple cart. You know what that means? Upset all your ideas, upset all your desires and wanting power. It may totally upset everything. So people say, keep away from it. You may abandon your family. You may be extraordinarily free from all attachment, from all fear, from all anxiety. And being attached, we say, for God's sake, don't touch that part. leave my little corner alone. Let's talk about something else. I want to study myself, learn about myself, but not my attachment. For God's sake, don't touch it. Because it'll upset my wife and my relationship and so on. I don't want to create trouble in the family. So I say, I won't. You follow? Learning about oneself may be the most dangerous thing. Too dangerous in the sense to the world in which you live. And that's why probably most people don't bother even to inquire about oneself. Right?
If it's so dangerous, why should I do it?
Huh?
If it's so dangerous, why should I do it?
What should you do?
Why should I do it?
Don't do it. Very simple.
But can you see some reason to do it?
Don't do it. Stick in the mud and go carry on. And that's why I said from the beginning, what is it you want?
I think, sir, he's asking...
Money, position, power, become a professor in some safe university, fame, not a politician, all out. You follow? Perhaps that's the safest thing to do. But it's really not safe either there. There are 10,000 people after your one job, right? Obviously. You may know mathematics extraordinarily well, or physics, studied, spent years. 100 others have done the same thing. And they want that same job. So it's a constant, endless battle.
Yeah, and doesn't that burn you out inwardly?
Why should it burn you out?
I think it does.
Oh, don't assume anything.
No, yeah, okay.
You've already assumed it'll burn yourself out. But I don't
No. I haven't said that it will burn me out. But you see, there are times when you have everything, you feel quite secure outwardly, but there's something missing. You don't.
So that's what I'm saying. You may have a butler, lovely house, marvelous furniture, everything you want. And something, some incident, some accident happens and you go to pieces. There's nothing to sustain you. Therefore they say, love Christ. That will at least help you, which is still the outer. So far, if one wants to learn about oneself, one has to say, I'm not going to learn through others, right, about myself, through books, through philosophers, through psychologists, through analysts and so on. Because what they tell me about myself is what they have learned from others and added to their own things to what they have learned. So I put that aside because I see the reason, the logic, the sanity of it. Then I say to myself, now how am I going to learn myself, about myself? You understand my question? How am I going to learn it? So I say, first of all, what is the self? You are interested, I hope. If not, we can talk about... No, I'm not very good about talking about anything else. I'll get off the platform, you come and sit here and talk about it. So, as I'm very interested in it, I've spent my life in it, and I'm very concerned about it. So I say, how am I to learn about myself? So I inquire, what is learning and what is the self, right? What is learning about oneself? Is learning about oneself, does it mean acquiring knowledge about myself? As I've acquired knowledge, please listen carefully if you are interested. As I've learned about mathematics, which is accumulating knowledge, learning about myself, does it mean the same thing? Accumulating knowledge about myself. You understand my question? If I have accumulated knowledge about myself, and with that knowledge I look at myself, right? Then I am looking at myself as I was. I don't even follow this. So I am not looking at myself. Do you understand this? Do you? I have learned a great deal about archaeology, and I've accumulated knowledge about Egypt, the ancient Egypt. And with that knowledge, I become an Egyptologist. I have a position in university. It gives me comfort, money, and helps me to further investigate into the ancient Egyptian kingdom. So you follow? That is very useful. But learning about myself, does it mean accumulating knowledge about myself? If it does, that very knowledge will become an impediment to further learning about myself. You get what I'm talking? Are you bored with it?
Krishnaji, I think accumulating knowledge about ourselves is what we've been doing all along anyway.
Are you? Are you accumulating knowledge about yourself? Or you're accumulating knowledge according to others? You understand? What professors, some philosophers, some psychologists told you about yourself? They have accumulated knowledge. Are you doing the same? If you are, then with that knowledge you observe yourself. So you are observing yourself who has accumulated knowledge. You're not observing yourself. I wonder if you see this. Look, I observe I'm angry, right? That's part of myself. I've been angry, violent. This morning I was very angry. I wasn't, but I was very angry. That anger has been registered in the brain. And it has been named as anger, right? So I've accumulated knowledge about anger, right? You're following this? Then with that knowledge, next time I'm angry, what takes place? I identify that emotion, that reaction as anger, and strengthen that memory. And with that memory, I next observe anger. Next time. So I continue this process. So I never learn, please listen, I never learn about myself. I'm learning about a reaction which I've called anger. So I may be that reaction. The whole structure of me may be an accumulation of tremendous reactions. Huh? Will you reaction, which is my name, right? Which is it? My form, my build, my face, my body, and the height, the depth, and so on. The accumulated reactions that have been good, that have been bad, that have been angry, that's all reactions. So, and the reactions are also the words, the language I've used about myself. So, the whole of me is a bundle of reactions, which I can discover in my relationship with others. Right? I'm married, I've got a girl or I'm married, and I can discover in my relationship with her how I act, what my reactions are. I'm jealous, I'm anxious, I dominate, I want her, I want this, I want that, I want sex, I don't. You follow? My reactions. And that reactions is the center around which the word is me. No? I want sex, I'm going to, all the rest of it. That's right? You follow this? Shankar? So, now is it possible to abandon the whole nature and the structure of this reaction See how complex this is? And you say at the middle of it, for God's sake, forget it. It's too complex, it's too boring, too... I've got a family, I've got this, I've got to go and earn my livelihood, and I'm occupied with my lawyer, with being a lawyer, for God's sake, it's too complex. You suddenly drop it and carry on. Right? So if a man, a woman who is really serious, wants to find out what a religious life is, because religion has been one of the creative factors in life. A new civilization can only come into being when there is real religious spirit. You know, all civilizations cultures are born out of religion, whether they are phony or they were actual. So if there is creation, I want the inquiry to find out. That is, can the self, this thing that has become so extraordinarily important, the self, the me, my desire, my want, my opinion, my longing, I want this, I don't want that. I want you to behave in a certain way. This constant assertion of the me. See how dangerous it is? So, if you want to learn about yourself, you have to give time. Or you instantly see it. The very instant action is the abandonment, total abandonment. So, as that is rather not difficult, that requires a great deal of penetration, a great deal of, attention, passion. So they say, my dear friend, practice. You follow? Practice the abandonment of the self. Right? You see the fallacy of it? Do this, sit cross-legged, meditate, don't have sex, must take a vow, do this, don't do that, discipline yourself, control yourself, suppress yourself. Which is, all that is the exaggeration of the reactions, which is the me. I was talking once, we were talking with a very high educated monk, highly European monk. When we came to this point, he said, stop, that's enough. I've understood it, and we never met again. So, will you spend time, energy, passion to live a life in which there is no conflict whatsoever? Which means an astonishing balance between the inner and the outer. I think we tried last year or beginning of this year, we talked about, is it possible to live a religious life married? And were you all there? Some of you were here, I think, weren't you? Is it? Somehow, is it possible to live a religious life being tremendously attached to my wife, to my daughter, to my belief, to my house, to my ideals, to my conclusions, to my desires? You follow? Come on, you work it out, think about it, go into it. So one has to understand very deeply what one wants, what one craves for. I know when you are young, you crave lots of things. Beauty, good body, nice face, lovely hair, position, your sex, and you know. And as you evolve, as you grow, you get more and more attached to your body, more and more attached to ideas, more and more attached to a daughter, son, wife, husband, girl, whatever it is. And then you're caught. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm just pointing out. You will do whatever you want to do. And then when you're caught, you say, my God, what am I to do? I can't, I have responsibility. You follow? The tricks were in place upon oneself. Learning about the world and the outer is much harder life. You understand? Than to learn about oneself. And that is, when you have learnt about yourself completely, is the most easiest way to live. The most extraordinarily intelligent way to live. In this there is no reward. In the other there is a reward. You follow all this? So, and as most of us are conditioned by reward and punishment, it's very difficult to see for oneself an action in which there is neither reward or punishment. Because both reward and punishment are reactions. I seek God. That's a reward for my misery. You know all the rest of it. I don't talk about it. So at the end of this sermon, where are we? Do you want to learn about yourself? If you want to, will you give time to it? Or you have a sudden flash, the flash of insight, and the whole thing collapses. Understand? Is that enough for this morning? Yes? Are you hungry? See, meditation is this extraordinary harmony between the inner and the outer. Therefore, when there is harmony, there is no division as the outer or the inner. Like a man who is in perfect health, he doesn't know he's healthy. He only knows when there is pain and disease.